Hello GX community. This is GXBOB coming to you guys again for a wonderful product I want to showcase and something that I'm going to be installing on my vehicle today. Today I'm excited to showcase to you guys wheel spacers. As you might not be aware, more and more people are starting to throw these suckers onto their trucks for a multitude of reasons. There's three that I can think of right now: aesthetics, drivability, and safety. Yes, safety, right? So before I get into the three reasons why anyone would want to install these onto their trucks, they are these thick contraptions that fit between your rotor hub and the wheels of your vehicle. They push out your wheels as far as you'd want them depending on the thickness of your spacer. They come in many different thicknesses, but today we're going to show you the 1-inch spacer and the 1.5-inch spacer. Have you ever taken a look at your fender to your wheel ratio lately? Most of us have wheels and tires that have an inset, and if you're OCD as I am, you'll notice your wheels are not lined with your fender trim. You're going to have this much gap between your wheels and your fender trim. I mean, if your doors have this smooth contour from the front door to the rear door and it's free flowing smooth, shouldn't the same apply to the rest of your truck? I mean, your wheels are part of your truck, isn't it? And let's just say, even if I put on spacers that are going to bring my wheels outside of the fender trim, it actually promotes a more aggressive 4x4 truck impression that you don't normally see in a truck that just rolled out of the Lexus dealer lot, correct? So aesthetically, we want our wheels to be anything but inset of our fender trims. Okay, number two. Now let's talk about drivability. I don't know about any of you, but when I do a complete U-turn, I can hear my tires scrape my wheel well liners. Wheel spacers actually help give that extra clearance to much needed areas within this confined space. Oh, and by the way, how many of you are actually doing upgrades to your GX and installing bigger brake calipers, thicker rotors, and aftermarket suspension kits? Spacers move your spokes and the backside of your wheels further out so that when your wheels spin while you're driving, none of your brakes and suspension components are scraping. So let's go ahead and talk about safety, guys. Safety is one of those things that prevent me and maybe 50% of you from adding contraptions like this because we're so fearful and paranoid that our tires will fall off if we don't install this correctly, and it'll kill the family of 4 in the Toyota Sienna in back of us and wipe out a whole entire generation. Well, guys, if done correctly, just like everything else we modded on our vehicle, spacers can actually make your truck so much safer to drive over stock OEMs. Yes, I said it. The type of spacer you choose, along with following the instructions and proper torque specs, spacers can actually save your life, not make you lose it. How? Well, spacers widens the track of your vehicle, giving your very high SUV a lower center of gravity. You might not make tight turns like a Porsche 911, but your last minute turns will not lift one side of your truck like a Suzuki Samurai. Spacers also gives you the convenience of adding wider tires, which in turn provides more rubber to asphalt contact. The more contact your tires have with the ground, the better control you'll have during accidents that are waiting to happen. I've had a couple of experiences where cars cut me off on the highway, and I'm telling you right now, guys, our GX460 is not made to handle like sports car, especially if you're doing 85 miles per hour like I was. It was a very scary experience. So let's go ahead and talk about the spacers we have here today, okay? So I made sure the type of spacers I'm going to install on my truck are hub-centric, right here. They're going to be hub-centric, meaning they were specifically for my vehicle's wheel hub. It sits right on top of the wheel hub. Hub-centrics are the safest type of spacers you can buy, hands down. They distribute the load of your threads to the center hub of your wheels, which is probably the strongest point of your wheel connection to the rest of your vehicle. So these KAX wheels, KAX wheel spacers, are made from anodized aircraft aluminum 6061-T6 and are specifically hub-centric for our Lexus GX460. Aircraft aluminum, is that safe? Well, folks, not only is it more cost-effective than steel, it also is safer than steel. Steel may technically be harder, but aircraft aluminum has a laundry list of benefits that include higher strength than steel in colder weathers. It's lighter. It's more resistant to corrosion, whereas steel requires coats of paint or other finishes in order to be competitive to aluminum in outdoor elements. So that's really important since our vehicle spends most of its life outdoors. So I have them in 1 inch and I have them in 1.5 inch to give you guys a clear visual on what type of look spacers would give to your GX460. So we're gonna go ahead and take off our wheels right now, jack up our car, and we are going to install these spacers, and we're gonna drop the car just so you guys can see what spacers on your vehicle will look like after we're done. The 1 inch CAX wheel spacer adapter. So let's go ahead and open this up. Here we go. Aircraft aluminum. Made by KAX. You want to get a wire bristle brush from Harbor Freight, put it on your power drill. You want to use brake cleaner to start spraying this off. Now we're going to install our 1 inch spacer. When I say hub centric, the center hub right here fits right perfectly over the Lexus hub. Perfectly. None of the weight sits on the threads itself. You guys, I've seen some people actually put anti-seize between the spacers and the rotor itself. I normally don't do that only because I do my scheduled tire rotations, okay? I move my tires to the back to the front, and I do it often. I do it at every oil change. The longer that you keep these spacers on here without doing tire rotations, of course they're going to end up seizing on you, especially if you're driving in riverbanks and you're driving in lakes and you're driving in snow. Okay, those are for people that actually don't do tire rotations often. But scheduled maintenance says you're supposed to do tire rotation. You don't need anti-seize between your spacers and your rotors, and it's just bad policy. If you're going to add some type of film between your spacers and your rotors, you're going to cause some type of vibrations along the way, and you don't want anything between the surface of your spacer and the surface of your rotors. You want to keep it flat and dry. Okay, so let's go ahead and place this on, this hub centric spacer right over your Lexus OEM rotor. Fits perfect, guys. Fits perfect. Let me show you guys. Look at this perfect fit. Fits right over. And next we're going to install the lock nuts that came with the spacer itself. So what are the rules of tightening this, guys? A lot of people are not comfortable with having the lugs on the inset of this lock nut. See how I see some threads in there? A lot of people are saying that these threads are not supposed to be shown at all. The lug should be pointing outward, and that's just impossible, guys. You cannot go past this plane or else your wheels will not fit on here, okay? It's got to be inset. And how do we know how far to go in here? A lot of websites will give you a certain number of turns. Something like this will probably be about 6.5 to 7 turns. Once you make contact, meaning this stops, you're supposed to turn it about 6.5 more times, and that is the rule of thumb. Well, guys, there is a better rule of thumb, and let me show you. Let me take this off really quick and show you what I am talking about. First things first, You always want to measure the diameter of these lugs right here. If I measure the diameter of this, it will come out to about less than 4.5, about 450 thousandths. Okay, so we're going to lock this up at 450 thousandths. The rule of thumb is you're supposed to measure this diameter, and it's supposed to equal the inset of how many threads you're supposed to go deep into this lock nut. So if I'm at 450 thousandths, my threads right here should go in that deep. Okay, it should go in that deep. That is about halfway. Okay, if I can make my threads go in at least halfway, I'm good to go. So it's got to fit in at least halfway, about right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this back on. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I am going to go ahead and slowly insert all of these lock nuts back in here. I'm going to use my power drill. It's going to be a lot quicker. I'm going to set it off at 1, going slowly. I'm going to hand tighten each one about 3 threads first and go in slowly. I'm going to go all the way in until it's snug. I'm going to do the star formation. There you guys go. Now you take a look at the inset of my threads right there. That is more than halfway into my lock nuts, so we're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and torque these, and my torque requirements for a 2017 Lexus GX460 is 80 foot-pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and torque these at 80 foot-pounds. When I put my wheels on, it's going to also be at 80 foot-pounds. Okay. These are 1 inch. So I've been driving the 1 inchers for about a week now, and I really like the way it feels and the way it looks. Every time I come out to my vehicle, I'm always checking it out, and it looks really nice. I like this new look. You know what it's time to do right now? It's time to try the 1.5 inch spacers. Let's check them out. I also forgot to remind you guys, if you guys are ever going to lift up your truck on a slanted slope driveway like this, always wear OSHA compliant flip-flops and shorts. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. So that's the end of our video. There you guys have it. These are the 1.5-inch spacers. The previous one was the 1-inch spacers. I seriously thought after driving with the 1-inch spacers for at least a week, it kind of grew on me because it sat very, very nicely flushed. But after putting the 1.5-inch spacers on, my vehicle looks so much more aggressive. And I think I'm going to keep the 1.5-inch spacers on here and drive for a while. I really, really like this look. But if you're more into the more conservative look that, you know, you just want to head to the mall and back and you don't want to climb any rocks or anything like that, then by all means keep on the 1-inch spacers. But these do improve the look of your vehicle. All right, peace.